Hello guys, welcome back to LR Anime. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Flame Emperor episode number 475 based on novel. So let's start. This guy is actually able to condense top immortal techniques. Demon Xiao Yan's eyes were surging, and he was obviously shocked by Yaoyu's actions. The four characters of top immortal arts seem to have some kind of magic power, and I am afraid it is the peak power closest to this world today. Xiao Yan's body waved with majestic power, and he was about to cage down the surrounding void. The hands filled with the blood of the devil instantly grabbed the little medical fairy and Zuna, who shot out, saving them from those monstrous ice spirits. Invasion. Brother Xiao Yang. Looking at the demon moon above the sky with more and more energy, if it continues like this, once it absorbs the power of the god-devouring insect mother and passes the reincarnation tribulation, I am afraid that their fate. Look. The demon Xiao Yang didn't pay attention to Yaoyu's figure, but raised his head and pointed to the endless void above Yaoyu's head. In the void, there seems to be an extremely terrifying energy that intensifies. This is the so-called ice attribute top immortal art? Shock and fear slowly poured out from the bottom of my heart. The power of the top immortal arts is not something they can resist. As of now, there is no way out. This world will be handed over to you. I'm going to stop this guy. Don't worry, I can't die. The demon Xiao Yang smiled slowly, and the demon phantom behind him burst into an unprecedented madness. Fight more and more. The radiance of the devil will never fade. Even these demonic forces seem to be crossing the long river of time and space, calling for some supreme beings that have survived from ancient times. Ha ha ha. Devil, holy flame, reincarnation, completely dormant in the hands of this seat. The top ice attribute magic. The latitude of ice. Finally, under the slow passage of time, this top immortal technique was completely brewed. Even if Yaoyu gathered the power of everyone and the god-devouring insect mother to volatilize it together, it was still a long way from the real top celestial arts, but it was more than enough to deal with Xiao Yang and the others today. Moreover, with the protection of so many powers, Xiao Yang and others could not interfere with Yaoyu's spellcasting, and could only sit still like this. Howling ice, come. Destroy all creatures in this world. The crazy voice fell, and immediately the top immortal art came completely. Even the fifth layer reincarnation tribulation was slightly dimmed. The pure white ice strands fell from the top of the sky, as if a gap had been cut out in the sky. The endless ice strands carried a power of ice that would destroy everything and tilted from the gap. The ice silk twisted, disintegrated, and instantly turned into strange ice flowers. The whole body of the ice flower is covered with obscure and incomprehensible ice patterns. Although it is only the size of a palm, the center of each ice flower seems to be composed of thousands of ice patterns. It is cold to the bone. The dots of light began to flicker, becoming the only color in this world. When the ice flower came, it was filled with a terrifying divine power, and it slowly fell, landing on some unconscious poisonous servants. In an instant, the poisonous servants did not have any counterattack, and the whole body trembled violently, and then the power of pure white ice poured out to freeze their entire body. Vitality, soul power, etc., disappeared in an instant without a trace, as if carved into the most perfect piece of art by these powers. Enjoy this ice latitude. After Yaoyu finished speaking, she waved the god-eating insect mother to the reincarnation above the sky. When the top immortal art comes, no matter how powerful these people are, they will completely fall. Once they are frozen by it, they will completely turn into an ice sculpture, and their body and spirit will be destroyed. All of this is his own victory. Demon Xiao Yang's pupils shrank tightly, and an extremely tyrannical pressure hit his face. Looking at the countless ice flowers in this ice and snow world, Xiao Yang suddenly felt that all the power in his body was bound by it. The demon blood that comes from the depths of the soul, the evil spirits and arrogance in the heart, all returned to peace under the power of this ice. It was as if he had fallen into a 10,000-year cold cave, and all the power in his body could not be used. This Yaoyu. I'm afraid it's a mourner. Ice attribute mourner, she controls one of the most powerful and magical ice attribute forces in the world. After a long time, Zuna's eyes flashed paleness, and she opened her mouth slightly. This kind of ice attribute power, which is enough to interfere with and suppress the power in everyone's body, is unheard of. I am afraid that this is the only explanation. The two of them tore the seal of reincarnation together, inspiring the two great powers to transform into phantom shelters, but even so, to the top immortal arts in front of them, they were still as small as ants. The ice flowers lingered, and there was an extremely crisp humming sound. At that time, the whole void appeared bright, and countless ice awns and ice flowers intertwined with each other, and the sky turned out to build a magnificent ice palace out of thin air. The magnificent ice palace is full of ancient taboos of ice, and the divine power is unmatched, and it will die if you touch it. The whole body is full of ancient and solemn smell, no matter what kind of tyrannical poisonous fog or demon power, it is shrouded in it at this time. It seems that there is nothing to hide, and even the soul is guarded by it. The ice palace trembled slowly, and then chains of ice filled with ancient fluctuations were bound to the demon Xiao Yang. The demon Xiao Yang didn't move and couldn't move. He could only stand in place and let countless ice chains bind his entire body. The ice chains ran through the body, the skin became rotten, the flesh was blurred, and the blood was dripping uncontrollably, and even his own vitality was quickly disappearing. The power in his body suddenly stopped flowing. It seemed that under the confinement of this ancient and taboo palace of ice, the demon Xiao Yang couldn't resist, and all that awaited him was death. Immediately afterwards, those ice flowers carrying mysterious power began to spread along the chain of ice, roaring away at the demon Xiao Yang overwhelmingly. Ice flowers surging, even some of the smallest and weakest ice flowers, when they approached Xiao Yang's body, bursts of humming sounded, and immediately dark green demon blood dripped from his body. Once the pure white ice flower was slapped out, it would make the body of the demon Xiao Yang tremble violently. The blood of the demon in the body instantly solidified, and the endless power of the demon was solidified by it. At this moment, Xiao Yang only felt that he was like a heinous demon, accepting the punishment of this world. The ice palace slapped the demon Xiao Yang mercilessly, and those miserable roars resounded through the sky. Brother Xiao Yang, Xiao Yang. Time passed by a little bit, finally began to freeze at a certain moment, and two hurried voices began to sound. Don't worry. I'm not dead yet. I am the devil and never give up. The brilliance of the devil, bloom. However, just when the vitality of the demon Xiao Yang disappeared, a crazy roar that made the world fear him resounded through the sky. At the same time, the body of the demon Xiao Yang was no longer a glass-colored holy flame, but an ancient dark green flame began to flicker. Dark green flames are completely different from holy flames, but the fluctuations contained in them are above the glazed holy flames. Welcome, my king. A very humble voice sounded slightly, and the dark underworld priest poured out directly from Xiao Yang's palm and crawls aside. The power of the devil is not used like this. The dark green flames drifted away and easily formed an ancient evil shadow in front of the demon Xiao Yang. The shadow spoke softly, not like blaming Xiao Yang, but more like a benevolent teacher pointing Xiao. This black shadow seemed to be weak, but after its appearance, all the ice chains that imprisoned the demon Xiao Yang were easily broken, and no energy waves could be created in the entire ice latitude palace, allowing Xiao Yang to temporarily regain his mobility. The demon Xiao Yang's chest began to roar like a volcano, but standing beside this shadow, he was like an extremely cumbersome baby. The strength and identity of this guy is probably the pinnacle that truly surpasses this world. Demon. The dark green flames surrounded the black shadow and ignored Xiao Yang, just murmured softly, and immediately stretched out his palm. The dense black power that made the palace of ice tremble filled. He was slightly clenched, and his eyes looked directly at the sky. The magnificent ice palace above. Boom. Almost without any warning, the dark green figure waved his fist lightly and swept away at the ice palace. Xuanji and Xian's power was easily thrown out, and a dull thunder sounded, so that the indestructible magnificent ice palace was unexpectedly blasted out by it. A black hole hundreds of meters in size. Around the black hole, the power of ice quickly dissipated, and a faintly palpitating dark energy began to float. Dark matter. Pluto. Dark King. At this moment, he was ready to cross the demon moon that had passed through the fivefold reincarnation calamity, and suddenly he looked at the dark green shadow below with a solemn gaze. Fear was born from his heart. This is the first and last time. Hopefully we'll have a chance to meet again. For the devil in you, and for the family behind you. The voice fell, and the black shadow waved casually, tearing the void directly, and disappearing here with the dark underworld, but the seemingly simple action just now left a deep shock in Xiao Yang's body like a seed. The void returned to quietness, and the majestic power of Ice Soul roared, and the Ice Palace released even more terrifying power to attack the demon Xiao Yang. Although I don't know where the strange black shadow came from, without its existence, Xiao Yang's life would have been wiped out. The power of the devil is not used like this. Fist to the sky. The demon Xiao Yang slowly closed his eyes and listened carefully to the guidance of the shadow just now. The identity of the guy just now could not be determined, but Xiao Yang smelled a wave of homology from it. If he is not a member of the Xiao clan, he is the owner of the demon bloodline. And he was able to crack this ice latitude palace so easily. He possessed the power of demons, and he had the blood of the Xiao clan, so he could definitely do it. In that seemingly simple punch, there is definitely another mystery. Why do underworld creatures appear in our demon world? Demon. Underworld. Can't be procrastinating. The latitude of ice. Annihilate. The corners of Yaoyue's mouth became sarcastic, and she was full of ugliness. Although the shadow just now was just an energy clone, the power contained in it was so powerful that Yaoyu couldn't touch it. Yaoyue's strength is strong, but after performing top immortal arts and transcending tribulations one after another, the power in her body has also become weaker. If things go on like this, things are likely to mutate. Brother Xiao Yang. Zuna was burning with anxiety, looking at Xiao Yang, who was constantly being destroyed and suppressed by countless ice soul forces at the core of the ice palace in the depths. Her heart trembled slightly. Don't go there, that senior has already pointed him, and now we can only trust him. Little Doctor Immortal shook her head. Only she could clearly feel how huge the destructive power contained in the latitude of ice was. Obviously, this situation was not something they could handle. Since this is the case, then we must protect the remaining guys from being absorbed by the god-eating insect mother and turning them into pure power to give back to Yaoyu. Let's go. Holding the palms together, the two delicate bodies swept away the poisonous servants below who were frozen in ice. Now that the pressure of this top immortal technique cannot be resolved, it can only temporarily delay Yaoyue's tribulation. I hope Xiao Yang, or the palace master Jingyu, can create some miracles. The power of the ice soul spread, and countless ice flowers flashed like stars, and the endless power of extreme ice suppressed and destroyed some evil powers. Beside a mourner with a unique ice attribute like Yaoyu, with the power of the god-eating insect mother, top immortal techniques are coming, and some powers that do not belong to ice, in this latitude of ice, belong to evil power, belonging to heresy, will only be excluded and obliterated by it. In particular, the demonic power of the demonized Xiao Yang was ravaged by the power of Ice Soul. Even if he was as arrogant as Xiao Yang, he was enduring the pain that went deep into his soul. Echoing the words of the shadow just now, the flesh and blood began to be eroded by the latitude of ice little by little, and bursts of ice strands covered Xiao Yang's body. As well as the blood of the demons and the blood of the Xiao clan flowing in the limbs and bones, the ancient and tyrannical power contained is unprecedented. Although the dark green demon bloodline and the bright red Xiao bloodline burst out with extremely dazzling energy, in the latitude of ice, they did not cause any waves, and they returned to calm. His face was trembling, and the blood in his body was tumbling and boiling, but no matter how majestic and arrogant the demon Xiao Yang carried in his heart, he was unable to resist the erosion of the latitude of ice. No one can use their own strength to display the top immortal technique, and no human being can resist the power of a top immortal technique alone, because it is not just a fighting skill, but more like a kind of divine punishment, a kind of icy frenzy that contains destruction. All the skin below the neck turned to ashes, only the bones and the evil spirit in the mind were struggling to support. The soul trembled, and the demon soul shadow behind him was furious, but he was powerless in the face of this attack. I would rather live than die. After a long time, when the demon Xiao Yang gave up his struggle and let the power of Ice Soul erode and destroy, the flame heart in the bones of his body was also frozen by it, and his vitality was lost. Even all the vitality in Xiao Yang's body began to a little bit. When it collapsed, Xiao Yang's heart suddenly beat. The heart, which was close to dead silence, burst out with a powerful beating, and every time it beat, the dark green blood would be passed along the white bones to the limbs and bones. Pass it to the mind, pass it to the depths of the soul. Accompanied by this strange move, a demonic force is sweeping in, but this time the force is countless times more terrifying than the one I hope Xiao Yang ever demonize. Dark green demonic flames began to emerge, burning above the bones, and blood and flesh began to slowly emerge. When these flesh and blood resurfaced, Xiao Yang's pupils, strength, etc. had undergone earth-shaking changes. The chest begins to burn. A dark green flame is like a splendid sun rising, blooming with endless evil. The source of the devil. Throw a fist to the sky. The demon Xiao Yang revived. Behind him was a dark green phantom that was comparable to the mansion of the gods. He slowly opened his hands, as if he was replaying the tricks of the ancient figure just now. Dark green evil flames appeared, making Xiao Yang Zaidu clenched his fists, blooming with endless dark green evil brilliance. Ripples of dark green energy that destroyed the sky and the earth surged, like waves of thousands of feet in the underwater world, violently flapping and rolling, converging into a dark green fist, roaring away at the forbidden palace formed by the latitude of ice in the sky. This punch is indescribable, because it is filled with a force that ordinary people cannot understand. Is that demon power? The power of supreme domination? Or the power of the gods? The dark green energy ripples overflowed, and the entire space shrank slightly like a heart, and immediately countless violent demon powers completely exploded. The ice and snow in the sky actually collapsed directly under the punch of the demon's phantom. The void trembled, and the power of the ice soul in the sky quickly retreated and shrank, and even the incomparably magnificent ice palace exploded in an instant under the punch of the demon Xiao Yan. The seemingly simple blow directly resolved this top ice attribute immortal art. The demon Xiao Yang did not move. There was some ancient evil power in Xieshuo's eyes. The demon moon, Yarrow Yu, who had crossed half of the reincarnation tribulation, was filled with extremely mysterious fluctuations. That kind of power was undoubtedly devastating to Xiao Yang and others. The latitude of ice shattered completely, the void distorted, and countless ice threads and low temperatures were instantly replaced by dark green evil flames. The dark green monster world is more like a chain of shackles, and the shackles are locked down, which have long been turned into ice sculptures and become many poisonous servants that eat the nutrients of the gods and insects. Good. At this moment, Yarrow Yu, in the center of samsara tribulation deep above the sky, stopped absorbing the power of the god-eating insect mother, her eyes swept away at the demon Xiao Yang, and her frantic voice spurted out countless demonic blood. The evil flames in the sky are even less powerful than the holy flames. The whole world presents an extremely rotten dark green, the earth begins to crack, and the whole world is filled with a chilling touch. Brother Xiao Yang. Zuna and Xiaoyixian looked up at Xiao Yang, whose body was boiling with evil flames in the sky, and worried. At this time, Xiao Yang seemed to be able to truly call him a devil, and that power even burst into palpitations from the reincarnation seal in their bodies. The power of the devil is too strong. Especially the punch of Xiao Yang just now, the power is no less than the category of top immortal art. As if with one punch, thousands of living beings will be destroyed. The latitude of ice has been broken. Yarrow Yu, roll down and die. The demon Xiao Yang roared. The punch just now contained some power that even he himself could not understand. With a punch, the latitude of ice was completely shattered, and the altar of the poison god palace was restored to its original appearance. However, the remaining demon energy and the power left by the latitude of ice clashed, but the attack here was riddled with holes. What is your relationship with the Supreme Lord of the Underworld? Yarrow Yu stopped crossing the reincarnation calamity, and let the power of thunder and punishment that is enough to destroy the world erode and attack her tender body. The shock in her eyes slowly transformed towards a touch of greed. She knew that it was definitely not a coincidence that the demon Xiao Yang was able to defeat her top immortal technique. After half the reincarnation calamity, Yaoyue's strength is now infinitely close to the real quasi-5-layer reincarnation level. This kind of power is enough to deal with the demon Xiao Yang. And the power that filled the body of the short-lived shadow just now, even if the real poison saw it, I am afraid that it would not be too much, and a twisted thought slowly emerged. You are strong, but I didn't lose. A strange smile appeared at the corner of Yaoyue's mouth, and this smile turned out to make the demon Xiao Yang feel some shivering heart palpitations. In an instant, the ice attribute power on Yaoyue's body was withdrawn, and circles of green poisonous mist gushed out from her nose, quickly corroding her skin. After the rest, almost no skin on her body was intact, and white halos emerged from under her filthy skin, and then slowly drifted away. The power of the poison god Xuanhe? The little medical fairy spoke up in astonishment. Because of her astonished development, the god-devouring insect mother turned into pure power under the invasion of this power, and merged with the pure white origin of Yarrow Yu. Even the emerald green aura gushing out from Yarrow Yu's body actually caused the reincarnation mark between his eyebrows to burst with an extremely greedy smell. That kind of power has a fatal attraction to the reincarnation mark between his eyebrows. No. You can't go. Do not. In the blink of an eye, Xiaoyixian suddenly understood something, and suddenly touched his forehead with both hands, trying to cover up the power of the reincarnation seal, but unfortunately it was too late. In the power transformed by Yarrow Yu, there is a very weak source of poison god. Although I don't know why she has this kind of thing, but this kind of thing has a fatal attraction to her reincarnation seal. Samsara, come back. The pure white energy source quietly stood in the sky, and immediately sent out bursts of suffocating fluctuations. Crack. A sound. The void distorted, the body of the little medical fairy was instantly uncontrollable, and the reincarnation seal burst into an endless halo, and suddenly swept away at the source light group of the demon moon in the sky. Not good. In an instant, the demons Xiao Yang and Zuna looked at each other, and there was endless worry in their eyes. Devil's Flame. The power of the artifact. Two earth-shattering roars sounded, accompanied by a dazzling energy halo, whizzing away towards the origin of the monster moon. The void trembled uneasy, black holes poured out one by one, and extremely violent shaking broke out in the whole world. Ha ha ha. Xiao Yang, this time, let me see how you choose. Do you want me to die, or do you want her to live? Twisting the hand, a contemptuous voice suddenly sounded in the source light group, and immediately the source of Yarrow Yu swept directly into the body of Xiao Yixian, completely occupying its delicate body. At this moment, in Zunna's eyes, an indescribable shock emerged. As for the demon Xiao Yang, at this moment, his fists unconsciously loosened, and his body trembled slightly. This scene in front of him is unexpectedly unheard of. Yarrow Yu. If she makes any mistakes, I will definitely smash your body into 10,000 pieces, and destroy your body and spirit. From the demon Xiao Yang's chest an endless roar of anger burst out. I want the source of holy flame in you, and I want the devil's seed in you. I want everything in you. After the blink of an eye, Xiao Yixian suddenly seemed to have changed into a different person. Her eyes were indifferent, her tone was evil, and she showed no mercy at all, like a heinous villain. Brother Xiao Yang. Suddenly, the void of the poison god palace in the distance trembled, and 5 crocodiles carrying poisonous crocodiles crawled forward in the sky. Looking up, I can barely see a frail figure galloping over. That is Palace Master Jing Yu, but behind her, there seems to be something more terrifying. Xiao Yang, Zunna, thank you for this time, and leave the next thing to Taishang. Jing Yu showed a kind smile, and then she looked at the little doctor fairy who was behaving strangely in the sky. Yarrow Yu, I knew this earlier, why did it happen in the first place? In the void of the sky, 5 poisonous energy crocodiles formed an extremely mysterious arrangement. Suddenly, there were old bronze light patterns wriggling. The light patterns buzzed endlessly. Down. The visitor's body is covered with an azure brilliance, like a stone sculpture that has been immobile since ancient times, gently opened his eyes, a calm and terrifying momentum, like the collapse of a mountain torrent. People can't give birth to anything at all. Resistance consciousness. Grand Elder Palace, crocodile ancestor. When looking at the obscure body in front of her eyes, the little doctor's face was ashen, and a trembling feeling germinated. The Supreme Elder Palace is the residence of the strongest people in the entire Poison God Palace. The Demon Realm Center has repeatedly invited them to join them, but they have been rejected. It can be seen that the strong people who can live in it are by no means idle. There are very few people in the Palace of Supreme Elders, but there is no doubt that those who can live in it have a fatal friendship with Xuanhe, the god of poison, or have made brilliant contributions to the Palace of Poison. The most important thing, their strength. The lowest is the real 5-fold reincarnation order. 5 reincarnation stages. It's not the quasi-5-fold reincarnation, but the real 5-fold reincarnation. The difference of one word is like a gap that is insurmountable. Crocodile. Now the overall situation has been decided. Even if you leave the customs, you can't change the battle situation. Poison God Palace, it's mine. After a while, the little medical fairy suppressed the fear in her heart and began to mobilize other powers. The reincarnation mark at the center of her eyebrows began to flicker, and a line of emerald green poisonous patterns appeared, which actually covered the entire world. Although Yarrow Yu temporarily controlled the delicate body of the little medical fairy, but this guy's understanding of the poisonous Xuanhe is much more tyrannical than the little medical fairy who just had the reincarnation seal, so the control of the reincarnation seal and other forces is natural much more familiar than the latter. The last word of the poison god, you can become the real poison god by possessing one of the 2 poison god tokens. This girl is a symbol of the re-emergence of my poison god palace, and the will of the poison god will not just disappear. Yarrow Yu, you violated many regulations in my poison god palace, and now you still repent and don't know how to repent. What's your sin? Crocodile ancestor stepped out one step, and a coercion of heaven and earth came out. The bodies of the many poisonous servants who were suppressed by the ice seal trembled, and a mouthful of poisonous blood was sprayed out. Grand Elder Palace. Crocodile ancestor. Among the crowd, there were a few discerning people who recognized the old man in the sky at a glance. What am I to blame? The reincarnation seal of the poison god is enough to completely kill you. Even if you are a real 5th-order powerhouse, you will definitely not escape bad luck this time. Ha ha ha. WAN poison. The corner of Xiao Yixian's mouth became sarcastic, and a roar that resounded through the sky swept out. At the same time, the poison pill and the ancient reincarnation seal at the center of the eyebrows, which had been inhabiting the body of the little medical fairy, began to slowly drift out along the hands, and a thick and deadly poisonous mist spread again, but it was different from the past. After the spread of the poisonous mist, the entire void was filled with a shattered laxity. This guy clearly wants to completely destroy this space. The poison attack you practice is very special, but after successive tribulations and top immortals, you have no strength in battle. It is a bit ridiculous to want to turn things around with such means. Crocodile Ancestor wrapped his palms and began to outline a bronze fluorescent light. The fluorescent light was like a faint starlight, but it was a little bit of restraint and suppressed the restlessness in the little medical fairy. The power in the body temporarily failed, and countless shocking colors suddenly appeared in the eyes of the little medical fairy. Little guy, I will seal you with all my virulence, and the suppression will require your little friend to take action. After doing all this, a strange fluorescent chain suddenly appeared on the body of the crocodile ancestor and the little medical fairy. The chain seems to be blocking the power of sealing the two bodies together. Xiao Yang, let her die. Looking at this scene, Jingyu had a serious expression of heartache. After a long time, she turned her back to Yaoyu, who was occupying the body of the little doctor fairy in the sky. Yaoyu's practice of poison art is one of the three major poison art of Poison God Palace, Wan Pu Yin. This kind of poisonous power is particularly powerful, and its killing power is different from ordinary poisonous powers. The cultivator uses a special poisonous seed to attack, and it is planted into the enemy's body when he is not aware of it, forming a poisonous barrier to control the enemy's mind. However, although this kind of poisonous art is insidious and vicious, few people can overcome it, and it only has the power to fight. This is why Yaoyu can't kill Xiao Yang before performing the top immortal art, because many henchmen who control the Poison God Palace have been exhausted. She has almost all of her power. Sure enough, it's the Halloween poison pill. Wait, is this? The power poured out, and the appalling power of venom began to spread, but there seemed to be something slowly overflowing in Xiaoyixian's body. Golem. Poison God Cauldron? At this moment, a poisonous pill suddenly emerged from the delicate body of the little doctor, and the poisonous pill lingered countless green poisonous mists. Middle. 2 tokens of poison gods. And the reincarnation seal of the poison god. Poison god is above. One after another, enjoying countless respectful voices, they roared away at the beautiful figures in the sky. The guy slowly stood around the poisonous cauldron and the poisonous pills like a god's mansion. Flow. Demon moon, it's over. Demon Xiao Yang's body was filled with demonic brilliance, and endless mountains of demon souls came one after another. Blood and flesh, demons and holy flames, soul and bloodline, and the blessing of several powers made the demon Xiao Yang look extremely evil. But it doesn't matter anymore, it's all over. Little bastard, it's all because of you. Give me death. Yaoyu was instantly ejected by the supreme divine power of the 2 poison god tokens, and the last trace of the source light group suddenly became restless, and then the half-reincarnation robbery that had been stuck on the top of the sky, as if the soldiers who had received instructions, quickly faced the demon below. Xiao Yang roared away. The whole body of samsara tribulation is filled with a series of obscure and complex thunder brilliance, and the entire poison god realm is shaky just after falling, and the serious sense of laxity constantly hovers in the sky, making people feel dizzy. Zuna watched the 5-layered reincarnation roaring down with the remaining halfway, and there was a creepy killing intent in her eyes. That kind of power can undoubtedly kill Xiao Yang completely. In an instant, Zuna's mind that had just calmed down surged up again, the divine weapon bracelet was torn out, and the power of the reincarnation seal was completely detonated, shooting towards the sky. Girl, don't worry. A melodious voice sounded, and the old crocodile ancestor's body suddenly swelled up, and immediately turned into a giant that lifted the sky, roaring away at the half-5-layered reincarnation. The source of the devil, endless brilliance. Feeling the power of destruction so close at hand, the demon Xiao Yang suddenly laughed. The countless powers in his body began to churn, and a terrifying wave of joy and fear swept out. Poison God Cauldron, Halloween poison pill, with my power, take away. On the other side, behind the little Doctor Immortal, a small black shadow appeared, driving the little Doctor Immortal's body, an ancient force that crossed the long river of time, roaring away at the source of the Yaoyu. Peel off. The voice sounded, and some pure power in Yaoyu Yuanyuan was suddenly drawn by some mysterious power, and gathered towards the body of the demon Xiao Yang. No. The origin of Yaoyu was imprisoned and suppressed. However, with the erosion of this power, her strength is slowly declining from the 5th reincarnation level, even those absorbed from the god-devouring insect mother body. The pure power, at this time, was eroded by this greedy power and passed by rapidly. This guy wants to disintegrate and devour the power in his body. The piercing roar resounded through the sky, but all this was indifferent. Yao Yu was defeated by the never-ending demonic power of the demon Xiao Yang and the new poison god. Gollum, this lunatic. Crocodile Ancestor looked up at the sky like an ice-cold queen doctor who was decisive in killing, and a fiery color suddenly appeared from the corner of his dry mouth. The poison god has this inheritance. Why is the poison god palace not prosperous? After a long time, the poison god realm will definitely gain the supreme dominance of the entire demon realm. Triggered by the demon moon, the remaining supreme restraining power in the thunder cloud of the fifth layer reincarnation tribulation, before it had time to kill the demon Xiao Yang, was resolved by both Crocodile Ancestor and Xiao Yan. At that time, some calm was restored above the sky. What is this? So pure and strong power. After the crisis was resolved, Xiao Yang withdrew all the demon power, etc., but his body was extremely weak, a heavy dizziness hit, and even his body was vaguely standing unsteadily, looking at the oncoming white energy halos, murmured. These powers seem to be deprived from Yaoyue's body by Little Doctor Immortal. They don't have any substantial lethal power. Instead, they are like a kind of healing power, constantly nourishing and repairing their skin and body. These are some of the sources collected by Yao Yu, and they can no longer be returned to them, so let's give them to you. After the blink of an eye, the little doctor's fairy jade twitched his hands, urging the 2 poison tokens without expression, depriving the power of the source of the demon moon. Xiao Yang is now working tirelessly to help himself, and what he says is to seek some benefits for Xiao Yang. The Poison God Palace does have the existence of top immortal arts, but even with the prestige of a small medical immortal today, it is definitely impractical to give it to Xiao Yang, so there is such a scene. No. You can't do that. The Yao Yu source light group slowly turned into an energy phantom, and the pupils were filled with endless fear and powerlessness. She has been thinking about it for so many years. She wants to break through the real 5th layer and become a Xeon existence, and finally made a wedding dress for others. Your Majesty, the Poison God. As time passed, the entire Poison God Palace returned to its original appearance, and the core members below hurriedly flew away at the position of the little medical immortal, with a particularly obvious look of respect in their eyes. They naturally knew what Xiaoyixian was doing, but after a short while, they didn't open their mouths to stop them. The reincarnation seal of the Poison God, the 2 tokens of the Poison God, even if the little medical immortals are weak now, but in the entire Poison God Palace, I am afraid that apart from the powerhouses of the Supreme Elder Palace, no one can move the slightest. Crocodile Ancestor, Jingyu, put Yao Yu in the poison cell and wait for accountability. At the same time, integrate all the power of the entire Poison God Palace, and kill all the unknown evil spirits. I will announce new rules in 10 days. The little medical fairy made a slight voice, standing in the void, and the seemingly weak voice was filled with the terrifying coercion of the superior. The Poison God is wise. The voices of support from countless people sounded, and all of a sudden, in the Poison God Palace, many powerhouses were in a trance, and a feeling of blood boiling filled the air. The Poison God is now, and the glory of the Poison God Palace will return soon. At that time, who would dare to say a word about the Poison God Palace? Brother Xiao Yang, are you all right? Zuna hurriedly swept into the sky and came to Xiao Yang's side, looking at the weak energy on the latter's body, her eyes wrinkled. It's okay, just this power. At this time, Xiao Yang's body was close to lack of strength, and he was leaning on Zuna's fragrant shoulders. For demons, Xiao Yang always felt that there were some extremely complicated powers, and that kind of power could only be explored a little bit. However, looking at the halo of energy in front of him, Xiao Yang nodded to the little medical fairy with great relief. This power is not the source of the 5th level of Yao Yu. After all, what Xiao Yang cultivates is not poisonous arts, and he will definitely not be able to absorb those powers, but those pure powers that rely on the transformation of insect mothers. I'm afraid this girl is also an arrogant master. Crocodile Zhu and Jingyu looked at each other and suppressed Yao Yu with a wave of hands. Looking at the pale little doctor fairy, he chuckled lightly. The reason why this girl wants to deprive Yao Yu of the origin is on the one hand to punish and establish majesty, on the other hand, it is naturally used to help Xiao Yang, although there is a lot of personal emotion in it, but many high-level officials are not easy to refuse. After all, with the prestige of their Poison God Palace, they can't let heroes like Xiao Yang contribute in vain. Boom. In the blink of an eye, a muffled hum sounded on the calm sky. Countless thunders are intertwined, and they converge into a beautiful thunder fault. The fault is filled with a terrifying wave that makes people feel dizzy, and it slowly spreads out. Reincarnation tribulation? Some powerhouses with extraordinary eyesight raised their heads, and the awe-inspiring touch suppressed all the power in their bodies. Xiao Yan forcibly cheered up, looking with fiery eyes. He was actually trying to leave Xuna's side and independently welcome this reincarnation calamity that belongs to his brother Xiao Yang. Xuna couldn't help but rolled her eyes and looked at Xiao Yang, who was moving slowly, with a look of resentment. Xiao Yang found out that his plan had been seen through, and immediately coughed. "I like to be strong." Xuna walked out as gracefully as a green lotus, and the majestic holy flame power swept through. Unexpectedly, there was a power to confront this reincarnation tribulation chamber. Isn't he always like this? The poisonous mist of the little doctor's body was swaying, and the viscous and terrifying power that was enough to corrode everything spread out, and the two jointly welcomed the reincarnation calamity. Hey. Xiao Yang reluctantly took a step back, but his face turned red. Obviously, the demonization stopped them in front of them before, and they were worried, but fortunately the ending was good, and with Xiao Yang's temperament, he naturally wouldn't talk about it casually. The power of the double reincarnation robbery is certainly extraordinary, but with the joint efforts of the two reincarnations, the terrifying confinement pressure slowly disappeared, and finally turned into lightning storms that lightly swept across Xiao Yang's body. Xiao Yang's exhaustion, the power of reincarnation has begun to recover and gather, and the strength is also rising. Half-step double reincarnation stage. Quasi-double reincarnation stage. Double reincarnation. Although the power of the source collected by Yaoyu was pure, Xiao Yang never imagined that he would make himself break through two minor levels one after another. For the rest of the time, let's just rest here. After solving the troubles, Xiaoyixian turned his head and said softly. Xiao Yang nodded, and immediately the election of the poison god has come to an end. Xiao Yang believes that with the prestige of Xiaoyixian, it will soon spread throughout the entire demon world. Many figures in the altar dispersed, and each left to deal with the large and small affairs of the poison god palace. The god-devouring insect mother that Yaoyu stole only ate a quarter of the powerhouses, so the poison god palace was still that giant. Dominant power. As for Xiao Yang's words, because the demonization power consumed too much, although there was no backlash from the demon cube this time, he still found a secret room and quietly closed himself. Today's double reincarnation level strength naturally needs to be carefully studied and controlled, and in the reincarnation level, as the strength increases, the gap and the battle of the higher order will become more and more difficult. But one thing is certain, even Xiao Yang himself did not know his true limit. Perhaps under normal conditions, he can only deal with some ordinary second and third layer reincarnation level powerhouses, but the demonized Xiao Yang's strength is not comparable to that of the Supreme Elder of the Poison God Palace, but it is almost the same. Whether it was the power of reincarnation, holy flame, or the power of demons, after this intense battle, Xiao Yang's understanding of them seemed to have improved to a higher level. This video will end here.